Mm. Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the financial knowledge and the banking awareness part of it, and basically in the previous lecture we had completed our discussion over the PFRDA, which stands for the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. Okay, I hope that you have revised that lecture properly before you have come for this lecture. It is very important for yourself if you are revising the previous things before you have coming for new things. Okay, so let's begin. All right, so banking awareness. So basically in this lecture we are going to start with another important topic of this particular series. Okay, and then topic stands for the name we call NHB. Okay, this topic stands for the NHB. Okay, and these are the other topics we are going to cover in this lecture. First we will start with the definition, or you can call it the introduction. Okay, then we will move to the regulation authority, objectives, functions, initiatives, PMAY, SARFAC, and the summary. Okay, so these are the topics which we are going to cover in this lecture. All right, so let's begin with the first part. So NHB basically stands for which? It stands for the National Housing Bank. It's the full form of it. Okay, so first thing we have come to the full form. Second, if we begin the introduction part. Okay, so basically the National Housing Bank, NHB, is a financial institution and the regulatory body. So here we have come to two things. The first thing which we have covered here is that NHB is basically the financial institution. Okay, second is the regulatory authority. Okay, so there are 2 points here. The first point is the financial institution. What do we mean by it? So basically the term financial institution here signifies the things like investment. Okay, like you can say financing, credit. Okay, these kind of things. All right, regulatory authority here signifies the term that basically that particular organization, or you can say NHP, is basically regulating certain sector or certain area. Okay, what which this area is? So basically if we go by the name, if we go by the name NHB, then it stands for the National Housing Bank. All right, that is the full form of it. Okay, so basically if we go by this, if we go by that particular full form, then you will get the answer that basically it regulates the housing sector. So remember these 2 points. It's a financial institution and it's a regulatory authority also. Okay, and here you can also see established to support and promote the housing finance sector in India. All right, it was set up as a wholly owned subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India. It is another important point. Okay, so if the question asks you which of the following is the parent or holding organization of the National Housing Bank, the answer should be Reserve Bank of India. The answer should be Reserve Bank of India. All right, thereafter it was established through National Housing Bank Act 1987. Now here we have seen that it was established through an act. Through an act. What does it mean? It means that This particular body is a statutory body. Which body? Statutory, because it's having its own act and it is under the control of Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so here you can say basically we have covered the three important aspects: full form, year, okay, and then parent body. Okay, let's go by them one by one. Full form is National Housing Bank, NHB. Okay, year is 1987 through NHB Act. Okay, and the parent body is Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Okay, the full form is National Housing Bank, year is 1987, parent body is Reserve Bank of India. All right, and the aim, if we talk about the aim, main aim, then for financing and regulating housing sector in India. Okay, this is their main aim, for financing and regulating the housing sector in India. Okay, so this is about the basic introduction. Now let's move forward. Okay, so after finishing the definition part, now we have the regulatory authority to be covered up. Okay, so let's see. The National Housing Bank, NHB, was established in 1988 and the act was passed in 1987. Okay, so here you can see two things. The first is that, however, the organization was set up in 1988, but the act was passed in 1987. So whenever the question comes in examination, please pay your attention that the act was from 1987, the bank was established in 1988. So there is a year difference. Okay, as a statutory authority through the National Housing Bank Act 1987. Here you can also say this. Okay, this act provided the legal framework for NHB's creation and defined its function and powers. Okay, so the legal mandate of NHB and its working is basically the NHB Act 1987. All right. Now, the second is NHB's primary role is to regulate and promote housing finance institution, which is in short known as HFIS in India, and provide financial and policy support to the housing sector. Okay, it is especially tasked with overseeing the functioning of housing finance companies, HFCs. Okay, so here you can see two main roles. The first is housing finance institutions, HFIs. Okay, second is housing finance companies. All right, so NHB is basically the, you can say, apex body in the field of housing sector in India or financing of the housing sector in India. All right, so that's why their primary role is not only regulating the sector but also overseeing the activities of housing finance institutions and the housing finance companies and other entities engaged in housing finance activities. Got it? Now, third point is that NHB is the apex institution. Apex means supreme. Nothing or no institution is above it in the housing finance sector. Okay. However, most of you will counter me or maybe countered me. You can say, so National Housing Bank, or we called it NHB. Okay, it is basically under the Reserve Bank of India, right? Or RBI, you can say. Okay, so if it is under the control of Reserve Bank of India, then how do I say that this is an apex body and no organization comes above it? The simple answer is that National Housing Bank, or NHB, is basically apex body in the field of housing finance sector. Okay, so keep this thing in your mind. It is not an apex body entirely, but in the field of housing finance sector, it is an apex body. So, however, it comes under the control of Reserve Bank of India, as it was established as a fully subsidiary company of the Reserve Bank of India. But when we talk about a particular sector, which is the housing finance sector, NHB is declared as an apex institution. Okay, it means it holds a central and authoritative position in the housing finance sector. Again, I am mentioning in the housing finance sector. So whenever you got confused in this, please remember the points which I am telling you. As such, it sets the policies, regulation and standards for HFS, housing finance companies and other housing finance entities to ensure the stability and growth of this sector. Because in this particular sector, it is an apex institution. All right. After finishing the regulatory authority and the definition, now we have the objectives part. Let's start. So the first objective of this is promote the development of housing finance institution and markets. Okay, development of housing finance institutions and housing finance markets in India. Okay, this entails several key aspects, like, let's begin. First is facilitating housing market, or you can say housing finance. Okay, facilitating housing finance. NHB works to encourage the growth of institutions that provide housing finance. This includes housing finance companies, HFCs, and other entities engaged in the housing finance activities. Okay, so basically you can say NHB does not only require to maintain the stability and growth of the housing finance sector or to regulate the housing finance sector, but also they have to encourage the growth of institutions that provide housing finance. Okay, these institutions may be HFCs or other entities which are engaged in the field of housing finance activities. All right. Second is the market development. Okay, NHB aims to develop and expand the housing finance market by creating a conducive environment for housing finance providers to operate. This includes setting regulations and policies that support the growth of the sector. Okay, like if you want to grow some sector, okay, so the first thing is there, you have to ensure that that particular sector is not only equipped with the modern means but also regulated properly. Okay, so that it could prevail the malpractices, mismanagement, and even the unhealthy competition. Okay, so that's why the market development aims that the conducive environment should be provided and also settling of rules and regulations also be provided. All right. Thereafter, we have provide financial assistance for a stable housing finance system. Okay, like NHB provides financial assistance to ensure the creation and maintenance of smooth, efficient and stable housing finance system. Okay, like we had discussed, they have to provide a conducive environment, they have to set out the rules and regulations, and also they have to monitor the proper policies. Okay, this financial assistance serves several purposes, like let's go through them. First is Refinancing support. What do you mean by it? NHB offers refinancing facilities to HFCs, which means it provides funds to these institutions at preferential rates. This helps HFCs maintaining liquidity and continue providing housing finance to borrowers. For example, you can say, suppose this is the borrower, this is the HFC, and this is the what? This is the NHB. Okay, so the condition is, suppose if the HFCs funding the borrowers, okay, so the HFCs will be are using or decreasing their fund, okay, because they are giving the amount to the borrower for a certain period of time, and that amount will be only coming back after a certain period of time. So meanwhile they will be decreasing their fund. Okay, in such a scenario, what happen? The NHB will refinance the HFC, or you can say will provide the funds to the HFC, so that the HFC will continue the lending activity. Okay, so this scenario is known as the refinancing. HFC is providing the finance to the funds to the borrowers, and NHB is filling the funds to the HFCs. Okay, so that the HFCs can maintain the liquidity and continue providing housing finance to the borrowers. Okay, so the first is the refinancing support. Thereafter, second is the stability and the liquidity. Stability and the liquidity part. By providing financial support, NHB ensures that the housing finance system remains stable and has sufficient liquidity to meet the demands of borrowers and support the growth of the sectors. Okay, remain stable. If the particular HFCs is running out of fund, it means that it will become unstable, and because of this, the entire sphere of the housing finance will be affected. Okay, second, to maintain the sufficient liquidity so that the fair amount and the equal amount, you can say, at some extent could be provided to each and every borrower. Okay, so it is required to maintain the stability and the liquidity. C part is that regulate and supervise the housing finance companies which are engaging in the housing sector. NHB plays a critical role in regulating and supervising housing finance companies to ensure compliance with prudential norms and safeguard the interest of borrowers. Prudential norms mean corrective norms. Okay, so that the borrowers must be protected against any arbitrary or arbitrary power. This regulatory aspects includes the following components like compliance with the prudential norms. NHB sets and enforces prudential norms, guidelines, and regulations that HFCs must follow. These norms cover aspects like the capital adequacy must be maintained, risk management should be acquired, asset quality must be at the priority, and the corporate governance means ethical practices must be employed. Okay. Thereafter, protection of borrower interest. NHB's regulatory oversight aims to protect the interest of borrowers by ensuring that the HFCs maintain fair and transparent lending practices, disclose terms and conditions clearly, and prevent predatory or fraudulent activities. Thereafter, the risk management. NHB monitors HFCs' risk management practices to ensure that they have adequate system in place to mitigate financial and operational risk. This includes measures to safeguard borrowers from potential financial hardships. Alright, so students, here we have finished the definition, regulatory authority, and objectives. Okay, in the next lecture we will cover these other remaining parts. Till then, just revise the facts and figures we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture and say thank you.